What are you doing, mate? You stood there like Eeyore, weren't you? He says, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, Dad. I don't know what I'm doing. That's my clock. The damn thing always seems to chime whenever I make a video. It's annoyance. Anyway, I'd like to look at another book today, which I really like. It's called I Am Ozzy. It did come in hardback as well, but this is the softback version of it. What does it say on there? Packed with outrageous, hilarious, disgusting and wholly improbable incidents. Yeah, I would agree. I would totally agree with him. I would have read that. But there's your bits and bobs that you need to get the copy. Very funny man, Ozzy Osbourne. He's a brummie, and they've got a great sense of humour in Birmingham. A friend of mine once said to me when he lived in Birmingham, he said the only thing that ever was any good that came out of Birmingham was the M1. And I just thought, what? Because to be honest with you, no, ELO were brummies as well. Some of my most favourite bands were ELO. I can't read that, can I? I'll let you read it for yourselves. But he's a very witty bloke. Yeah. You know, he used to live near to where a friend of mine lived, in Amersham. And he used to drink down this pub all the time. It's called the White Lion. It was on White Lion Road on the way to Amersham. And he was in there all the time. He's only actually quite short, Ozzy. He's not. I'm a lanky bastard, so I'm 6 foot. Well, I used to be 6'5". Then I had a motorbike accident. And I was sort of reduced to 6'3". But ultimately, he lived in a house called Drummer's Yard, which was previously had been owned by Dirk Bogarde, the actor, you know, the famous actor Dirk Bogarde. And so there's some pictures of Ozzy in Birmingham when he was young. When he was a young lad, that was him with his mum and dad. And and he was down this pub all the time. Very witty, very funny. I've met him well on sort of multiple occasions. I mean, that pretty much sums it all up, isn't it? I mean, there he is with some lass naked as the day that they were born, isn't he? Well, rock and roll. But no, he tells a good yarn, does Ozzy. He definitely tells a good tale. And well, I think that's his daughter Jessica from his first marriage. He was married a few times, I think, Ozzy, or twice at least. Obviously, his latest marriage has lasted very well with Sharon Osbourne. I think pretty much everyone knows Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne, put it that way. But there he is with Black Sabbath. But when he was first in a band in Birmingham. Brilliant tales behind all this. Of how Ozzy apparently turned up to an audition for the Sabbath as a singer. It said wanted singer, you know. Tony Iommi, this chap, I can't see, there's a flash on there. Tony Iommi was the guitarist who was missing fingers actually, which is incredible. A few people might know that he actually has false fingers, and he plays guitar with you know, plastic tips because he lost 2 fingers in an industrial accident. Outrageous. But anyway, he advertised in the local newspaper for singers, you know, and Ozzy turned up, and he had a tap. He had a house tap on a chain around his neck. I mean, my God, he was nuts from the start. But if you've ever followed the Sabbath, which I've no doubt all of the viewers of my channel will be aware of them, that's a fact. You know, that they won huge amounts of accolade for their music, for their various different albums that they had. And then in fact, suddenly Ozzy had a meltdown in about the early 1980s, and he formed his own group called Ozzy Osbourne, you know, just to sing, a solo artist sort of thing. There he is with a brilliant guitarist, Randy Rhoads. Randy was an amazing player, but unfortunately he met a very grisly end because he was in a light aircraft. He was convinced they were on tour, and Ozzy was sleeping in a caravan, and one of the tour members was a pilot, not a very good one by all accounts, because he took Randy up in the aircraft with him and some other young girl. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, which is a shame because I should. Oh, that was her. I think there actually, called Rachel Youngblood. I think that was her there. And anyway, the pilot said, "Wouldn't it be funny if we buzzed Ozzy Osbourne's caravan, really low flying sort of thing," which he attempted to do, but as he did it, he lost control of the aircraft and they crashed and they died, which was dreadful. What a dreadful way to go, playing a light aircraft accident. But Ozzy loved Randy. He was very androgynous, Randy Rhoads. He sort of almost a genius, person. As it says here, a guitarist of his generation and a man of before his time, because he really was. I mean, I remember a piece of music that he wrote called D, and it's awesome. I learned to play it myself on the guitar. I mean, I couldn't do it now for you, but back in the day when I was a kid and stoned out of my head sort of thing, I just sat there with a guitar on it. So there he is marrying his second wife Sharon. And he's gone nuts by now, isn't he? He was biting bats' heads off and stuff, and I think he even bit the head off a dove, a live one as well, for some stunt, as he thought it was. And no, it didn't work out too well for him with the music industry. But he's made some wonderful albums as well. Everyone will be aware, and he now lives in America. I think he lives in Los Angeles. In some various different houses he's had. He moves about a lot. I think Sharon, like his wife, likes to shift. She likes to shift about, isn't he? But she's a genius on her own back. I mean, she's not exactly. That's her there. She's not exactly a lame ass. She's a producer, music. Well, everyone knows her. I bet you know her. She's obviously a little bit older than that now. Still a lovely looking lady, but. Ozzy's done some things. He's done everything that a rock star should do, really. Television's out of windows is nothing for Ozzy. It's like, whoa. I've heard some stories, but it's what they get up to when they're off their heads on booze and drugs and whatever I suppose. And they've got too much money. They've got so much money, but I think he's more down to earth now, though. Yeah, they were at Live Aid in the mid 80s. But I think Ozzy's calming down a bit now. He's old. He's an old boy, isn't he? But he does tell a good tale. He's very funny. He is a very funny man. I can highly recommend it. There was a show made about him called The Osbournes, which sort of chronicled their life, as it were, in America. And he was immeasurably witty during that show. Series of, there were 3 or 4 I think, series of the Osbournes it was called, and of course he's all inked up, which is very trendy now, of course, but back in his day it wasn't. It was very pioneering to be covered in tattoos. As it looks like he's taking a shite there, isn't it? But who knows what the plan was. And he's got a lovely family. There's Kelly. I think this little one. They're women now, because they've grown, obviously. But there's Kelly is the little one, I think. There's Jessica, and there's Amy, and there's a son, I think, called Jack, who comes across as a really decent chap. As I say, they're grown now. They're all grown up. There's Jack there when he was a kid, sort of thing. And that's Kelly, his daughter. And there he is with his wife Sharon. A lovely fella. I've got a lot of respect for him, because not only is he a pioneer of rock and roll, I mean, he was heavy metal. I mean, he invented the darn thing, just about. And they Black Sabbath were absolutely awesome. I mean, who doesn't know that finish with my woman. Yeah, absolutely. But I had tickets to see him in Poland when I was living in Poland. I had tickets to see him, and He lives in a place, as I said, in Jordan's. Well, did I say it? He has a house in Jordan's in the UK, in Buckinghamshire, near Amersham. And well, he had a quad bike accident and was really sort of messed himself up. And there he is on his quad bike to prove it. And well, it says here, I broke my neck, my collarbone, 8 ribs, and punctured my lungs, and was in a coma for 8 days. That is not a good accident, Ozzy. So and there he is, post trauma, as it were. Anyway, I was pretty pissed off until I found out what happened to him, obviously. But because I had tickets to see him in the Spodek, it was called, in Poland, in Katowice, and of course he couldn't show up for the gig because he was in hospital, isn't he, with a broken, bleeding neck. So luckily he recovered. There he is with Paul McCartney, and there he is with the Queen, and there he is with an impersonator who's very funny. John Culshaw, I think his name is. You can hardly tell them apart, can you? Well, I think that's the John Culshaw version. That's the real Ozzy. But yeah, he did a series of impersonations or impressions, what you want to call it. There's Ozzy and Sharon looking a bit glum because they were robbed, weren't they? Which was a shame. That they were burgled in their house and they lost 2 million. I know that for them you might think, well, that's not a lot. But it is, though, isn't it? It is, because how many gigs has this guy had to do to get 2 million quid? A lot, and so it's a cheek that they got away with that, is all I can say. And there he is with his sisters. There he's got quite a big family. He comes from quite a large family, old Ozzy. And, well, there you go. I think we're at the end of it now. That's Ozzy and Shaz on their, well, what is it? It's his 60th birthday, Ozzy's 60th birthday. And there Ozzy is with that's his son from his first marriage. And that's Jack, more grown. There's Kelly, I recognise her. I think that's Amy. Yeah, I think that's that's it, really. It's a really good book. It's a really good read. It's very funny, very funny. Very well worth having. So I've got muck on it. Here you go. Every page of this hugely entertaining, sometimes painful frank autobiography seems to have at least one punchline to a good joke, and I would agree. He's got my sense of humour. This bloke. I like to laugh, have a laugh, as a lot of you will know from my comments. You know, I get banned from YouTube. By the way, they ban me regularly, innit? Because not everyone understands my humour, so whatever. They can get fucked, yeah. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it. What are you squeaking for? What are you looking for? There's nothing in there. There's no food in there. It's just plastic, innit? You monkey. Thanks ever so much, guys and girls, if you got this far. Cheers.